Afternoon, everybody. I think one of the worst things that can happen in life to someone is to die of the elements, whether it's like that famous movie of where the soccer team crashed in the Andes Mountains and they had to survive by eating some of the fellow players. I think it was called Alive or something like that. And of course the story of the Donner Party in 1846 getting trapped in the Sierras and having to winter over there and eventually having to, at least some of them, resort to cannibalism. And still a lot of people have died of exposure and death out here in the California desert. And today I'm in another one of those dying California towns, Baker, California. Back in the day when cars weren't as well built and breakdowns were more problematic, trying to get from a place like LA to Las Vegas could be an all day and sometimes an overnight journey. In Baker, California, about 2/3 of the way to Las Vegas from LA, really found its calling as a way stop on the way, and a place that had hotels and inns. They developed a pretty good trade until the 1990s and beyond, when the town fell into disrepair, as you can see behind me. But I'm not here to talk about that today. I've covered a lot of decaying towns. There's not much that'll turn a place like this around. Rapid transportation, people want to get from point A to point B. There's literally no reason to stop here anymore, except maybe to gas up and get a drink and stretch your legs and take a break. So obviously time has taken its toll on this place, and you can go back and look at some of my prior videos, the Royal Hawaiian, Arnie's Royal Hawaiian Hotel, and exploring some of these abandoned buildings here. It's kind of sad, but it's exciting if you're somebody that enjoys urbex and going into places that have been abandoned, particularly out in the desert. But today I want to particularly talk about true crime in the context of one of the most mysterious disappearances and eventual recovery and potential murder of all time, and it remains unsolved. And it was the last time he was seen alive was July of 2013, and they even made a Netflix movie called Dying to Be Famous about the life of Ryan Singelton, born, raised in New York, and had a dream of being a model, and went out to Los Angeles to pursue that dream. Well, he was quite a good-looking guy, and as is often the case, success does not come overnight. He was able to land a few runway gigs and make a little bit of money, and he eventually married a gentleman. I think his name was Keith. He was a hairstylist to the stars in Los Angeles. Well, their marriage only lasted about 4 months or so, and it went on the rocks. But when he came out to Los Angeles to pursue his dream in July of 2013, he decided to take a trip to rent a car and drive to Las Vegas, maybe just to have some fun or just kick it out a little bit. Well, he never made it to Las Vegas. day that Ryan disappeared in July of 2013. That very day, his mother, who lived in Georgia, got a very strange phone call from him requesting that she Western Union $100 to him. Now, I'm not sure, and it was never clear whether the money was sent or not, but at the same time, that same day, the mother received a call from the ex-husband expressing concern that he believed that Ryan had been drinking and seemed to be talking about being in some kind of potential danger, and even mentioning that potentially his life could be at risk for whatever was going on here in California. Well, his last known location, as I said, was here in Baker, California, and in July of 2013, he was last seen leaving actually the police picked him up on the side of the road to California Highway Patrol. They saw him walking towards the town of Baker because his car had broken down en route to Las Vegas. They gave him a ride here to the town of Baker, went to a convenience store. They remember seeing him there, and that was the last time he was ever seen. And he just disappeared off the face of the earth. As I mentioned, Ryan was never seen again, and it wasn't, of course, they mounted a search out of Baker, the California Highway Patrol, the county sheriffs here in San Bernardino County. They really mounted an all-out search for him because he was reported in as missing. Well, they never did find him until about 10 weeks later, when mysteriously his body was found about 2 miles from here out in the desert, and all of his organs were missing, and he was basically what they call skeletonized by the time that he was discovered. Of course, the big mystery is, was his body eviscerated by animals? Why was he 2 miles out in the desert? You could probably walk 2 miles out in the desert here from Baker, California, and it's a pretty good bet that you would be dead by the time, well, probably you'd be dropping dead at the 2 mile mark, because the mechanics of it are your heat starts to become uncontrollable. You start to perspire and sweat a lot in an attempt to cool down. You feel like your hairs on your arm and things are standing on end. It becomes a very prickly heat, and after not too much longer, your ability to perspire shuts down and you start to experience what's called heat stroke, and, well, you keel over and sadly you die. And it's the life of, this is the gateway to Death Valley here in Baker, California. Death is not unusual out in this particular place, but what was unusual was, number one, what would be the motive for taking off into the desert? Was it potential death by suicide, just a desire to march into the proverbial sunset, disappear from the face of the earth? Was he captured and organs were harvested from his body? This is a very heavily trafficked route. A lot of weird things, as you guys know, happen in California, particularly out here in the desert, because people know that solving crimes, particularly homicides, is very problematic. Now, there had been, you can look up the coroner's report, you can watch the Netflix movie called Dying to Be Famous that talks about his life, but they've never really established whether it was murder because of the, or suicide or whatever because of the, or just stupidity. But I don't think anybody from any part of the United States would be so ill of mind to just start taking off on a July day when the temperature on the ground is at least 120 degrees, with no apparent water, no ability to sustain yourself, no shade or anything, where the onset of death is going to be certain and rapid. There'd be no reason that perhaps life was so bad for Ryan that the only way he perceived that was to march himself out in the desert to his death. He could have been eviscerated by animals, which the later forensic scientists re-examining the case and things speculated that if the organs were harvested, there would have been clean margins of clean cuts for sutures and knives. Plus, when you're out here, it's very difficult to have any sort of operation where things might be sterile out in the middle, assumingly out in the desert or something like that. So, you know, it's up to you guys to solve that mystery of what happened to Ryan Singelton. I kind of suspect that he may have decided to just end his life out there because he didn't like the road ahead of, he'd already experienced some misery in his life, and perhaps he discovered that trying to get on and be a LA model was a very competitive and a very difficult thing to do. The fact that he called his ex-husband and expressed concern that he thought he might be in some kind of trouble to his life is concerning. But, you know, Baker's a long way from LA, and for somebody to track somebody down or something nefarious to happen, I suspect maybe things were in his mind. So we'll never really know. But one of the greatest murder mysteries in California history happened right here in the decaying town of Baker, California. Hey, thanks so much for watching today. Another true crime report here from the scene. Thumbs up are appreciated. And what do you think down below? Have you seen the Netflix series? Have you seen the Netflix movie, Dying to Be Famous? You a true crime person? I'd like to hear your thoughts. See your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thanks, everybody.